Welcome everyone. Welcome. Today we have the other kind. And today we will be talking about trolls. No, not internet trolls. We are talking about the Norwegian one. And to start off, we'll be reacting with a video from a YouTuber who goes by the name of Isaiah Photo. That's what his YouTube is. We will be reacting because a while ago he went to Norway to go troll hunting, and the Norwegians, they tell of trolls. You know, you had in Frozen, you had the trolls if anyone's watched that before. However, and this format will change. I'm just doing because you could do tape to air. However, that costs money, and you have to upgrade StreamYard. I'm not going to do that yet. However, I think that without further ado, we should get on with this. Let us begin. I'm not sure if I don't think this is just us reacting, and this is kind of like that other guy. I forgot what his. He goes around the world and sleeps out. Like he slept at the underwater hotel. I forgot. But this is really interesting.
This is a troll, even though you might think of them as mythical creatures. A large population of Norway believes that they exist today. The Norwegian government even had laws
That's
for
pretty
hundreds
interesting. I will say that is interesting.
of years prohibiting humans from interacting with trolls. And today, I'm going to see if I can find them.
I'm here in Norway.
The Norwegian people have a long history with trolls. In fact, over 200 places are named after them throughout Norway. But there's one place in Norway known as the home of the trolls.
And when we're done, I'm actually going to bring up some photos of these places in Norway. It literally looks like something got turned in this stone, because if you are familiar with the old myth of trolls, and I probably should have started this, if you're familiar with the old myths of legends of trolls, you'll know what happens. It's kind of like vampires when the sun comes up. However, instead of turning into dust, they turn into stone when the sun shows. It's like in The Hobbit. If any of you are familiar with that.
Troll hunt. Lucky for me, I have Ulsa and Gorin, expert troll hunters. They claim to have interacted with real ones, but I'm not about to face a giant creature on my own. So I brought Dave and Isaac.
Oh yeah, Norway. Y'all get it back.
Now, I'm not sure these two individuals, right?
Expert troll hunters. They claim to have.
I'm not sure if these two individuals have actually. They claim to. I'll take their word for it. However, we simply don't know. We simply have no idea what it is. And once we finish the video, I will give my thoughts on what I think these are, and we'll continue from there.
Interacted with real ones, but I'm not about to face a giant creature on my own. So I brought Dave and Isaac with me.
Oh yeah, Norway. Y'all get a bet? The whole bottom one.
But we gravely underestimated where this expedition would take us. It's believed that the highest population of trolls resides in the mountains at Trollheim. If we're gonna find one, it's gonna be here. We arrived at the Troll Experts HQ, but my only interaction
Just have to.
with them has been over email, so I'm not entirely sure what to expect. But holy smokes, I sure didn't expect them to have such a nice ride.
Look at this car. There's like a troll car there. Look at this troll.
That's pretty sick. I'm gonna have to say that's really sick. That's amazing.
Oh, got that skincare routine, baby.
I said that joke 2 minutes ago, and then Isaiah chose to say that.
We finally got to meet
Remind me your name one more time. How do you say it? Yurerom. That was clearly not it.
Honestly, I have no idea how to say his name, but he said that I could call him Goran. Goran made us coffee, and we got introduced to Ulsa. This place was insane. It was covered in paintings, pictures, and evidence of trolls. I'm pretty confident that we're in the right spot.
How long have you been looking for and researching trolls?
7 years, I think.
Now I'm not sure what evidence is, but and while I do think this is a good, I just want to, you can watch the rest of it. I want to skip forward to more.
I guess we were.
Is to capture.
Guess what's midnight right now?
That's midnight in Norway. And I'll say this, there doesn't appear to be a lot. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone from Norway who ends up watching this, if you have evidence, so trolls, because I don't seem to.
Pretty much our only opportunity, according to our new friends Ulsa and Goran.
I'm not scared at all, Isaiah.
We never tried this before, but we're going to split up. I have a trail cam set up. Trolls are literally wandering this area all over, so it'll pick up anything in this area, just in case. One of us is going to go to the lake, one of us is going to go to the marsh, and one of us is going to go to the forest. All right, so basically, what I remember, Ulsa and Yurin, they're going to see us first. And if they find us approachable, they will approach us like any other animal.
Forest kind of seems like the worst spot to be.
You know, actually, I just absolutely soaked my foot. I wet up. Hey, this foot's wet.
This is a terrible idea. Instead of Wikipedia, I did. There are trolls that live in the water. I don't know what kind, but I know they exist. I'm gonna kind of just watch for ripples.
Splitting up always seems like a terrible idea, but according to Ulsa and Gorin, our best shot at seeing a troll will be on our own. And, well, let's just say that things got much more interesting.
I think Dave is in this forest right now. Look at this.
What is this? Am I tripping on it?
Every time I turn my back, I feel like there's something behind me. But then there's nothing back. That was a close call.
Find out what this is.
I don't know if I saw something or not.
Okay, I think it's just a log. It's just a log, bro. That's scared of a wooden log. Oh.
It's time to check the fridge. See what we got.
In the end, I didn't think that I found anything. Or did I?
And this topic, it's really hard because there isn't that much evidence. Like, well, I'll do is I'll open up another browser and I will see if I can find anything. So this is on Reddit, and I know what you're probably gonna say. Reddit. This is r/Norway. So troll sayings. Do trolls really exist? And I guess we can open up this blog spot and we could read a little into that. Because the Norwegians say they exist, like you saw in that video. Oh, apparently Norway has had 100-year-old laws that prohibit humans from interacting with trolls. I find that really interesting. Why is that? So, all right, so troll sightings in Norway, do they really exist? And I guess we should actually first read this. So, do trolls really exist? Let's discover the truth behind the horrifying creatures of the forest called trolls. Do they really exist? And other than that, related paranormal topics will be discussed. Do trolls exist or has existed in the past? You probably watched the interesting movie called Troll Hunter. It's actually a good movie which came out in the form of a documentary film where history's best kept secret in the region of Norway has been revealed. Anyways, if you already have watched this movie, there's only one question that's playing inside your own mind. This question is, do trolls exist? And let's see. Is this on? It's actually free on YouTube. After this stream, I might end up watching it because it seems like a movie. before we conclude, before we conclude and answer into the question of, let's first discuss more about trolls. So what are trolls? In the movies, as well as on children's stories, they are often depicted as monsters that are unfriendly to humans. Some of their kind even crave for human flesh as their most favorite type of food for their meal. There are actually several kinds of trolls, which vary on sizes and appearances. The most common type of trolls are those with human fingers but quite ugly and possess slow-witted characteristics. There are also those that are gigantic in size and they can easily crush a human with their own bare foot. Moreover, the oldest source of information tells us about trolls are the Norse mythology and the Scandinavian folklore. Both of these sources claim they inhabit places such as the deep forest, isolated mountains, rocks, and caves. Scandinavian folklore actually has a more detailed description about trolls. It claims that trolls are also considered human beings, but they choose to live in their own right, far away from human inhabitants. Thus, they are not civilized, so as Christianized, which makes them dangerous to humans. Other than their aggressive, brute behavior, some are kind and known to some of their kind are known to practice powerful evil magics or sorcery. Since they were not Christianized, maybe this is the reason they were afraid of life, that when they got exposed to sunlight, it will cause them to turn to stone. In short, it kills them. The most interesting fact about trolls is that they are known to have a lifespan that ranges from 1,000 to 2,000 years of age. In conclusion, so do they exist or have they existed before? Since there are no solid proofs that they exist, that they still exist up to this current day, we do not have an answer for this question yet. As for the question, have they existed before? We can conclude the answer as yes, and here's the possible explanation. In the long old days, there were actually several hominid species that existed, which includes human giants. Trolls used to be considered among these hominid species, but unlike the human giants, they had terrible, ugly looks, and maybe they were really unfriendly, especially to humans, which is according to Norse mythology and Scandinavian folklore. Well, we do not know the exact truth or reason about why they were unfriendly and prefer to live on their own. Maybe they preferred to live far away and on their own just because they were chased out by the humans, or they were just purely evil and cursed. As an option, humans had grown more. I think that actually says opinion. I can't read. Humans had grown more population where they had the power to easily obliterate the remaining numbers of trolls into their extinction. These soldiers responsible for the killings of these hominid species were now treated as heroes pertained from various folklore stories. Those added awful characteristics about the trolls were perhaps just to simply make them more evil creatures for the purpose of making the stories a lot more interesting to tell. Only trolls that exist are in children's stories. At this current date of our time, trolls only exist on children's stories as well as on movies. But during the old age, you may be surprised to know that people used to make stories based on their own actual experiences and events, but with a few tweaks for the purpose of making them more interesting here. The reason why they had to turn to fantasy or something unbelievable but interesting enough to listen was for the listener to remember it for the rest of his or her entire life. Thus, such stories have been passed down from generations into the next generation, but they got probably revised several times. Here's a book I recommend for furthering about trolls. So, I guess it's about trolls. I guess that's the name of the. And why trolls hate. I mean, we could. I'll leave that open if we want to read that later. So then we'll get back to this thread. So to our story. So of course they do. This is basic knowledge. No, we have a high just up in the woods here. Jod. Everyone knows of the trolls. It's not actually all over Norway. There's a specific region called Finnmark, and let me actually get a map of Norway up for you, just so you know where Finnmark is. So it's called Finnmark, and that's the place where most troll sightings have been seen by witnesses. Finnmark is a lowly populated area where they are not controlled properly. We have a few large ice trolls up there, but you must not forget the woodland trolls. We have large amounts of them running down the west coast. Most areas are controlled though. And proof. So this is that's not available anymore. Really interesting to know what was on that video. If maybe it's on Internet Archive. I don't know. I wouldn't even know what to type. Like, so this is it. It's Finnmark. It's known as Finnmarkas in Norway. Apparently, it says the county again in 2024. Yeah, it just gives you a bunch of whole thing. Apparently, this is close to the border with Russia. And there's actually a podcast I watched a couple of years ago, which I could definitely try and bring up. But if we go back, the last one is trolls are real. Haven't seen them personally, but many of my family has. And I know there's a photo that allegedly shows a troll that was a photo of a troll from an RAF, a photo taken from an RAF plane in 1942. That's actually a fake. That's a Photoshop of a troll. Someone took the image of the troll, one of the trolls from that film Troll Hunters, and they put it in a background. But fooled many people. Isn't this a surprise? And I see because this is not a topic that's talked a lot about. The Expanded Perspectives podcast. So shout out to them. I'm not sure if they're still posting. Looks like they are. Good for them. I just don't want them to copyright me. This is a So this is from actually 2016. Man, 2016 was 7 years ago.
Be a Chinook, and it had 2 props. Was not lit and made no sound, but moved as fast as a troll.
Cam, like we were talking about.
I think all of them follow logic. This is, yeah, I've listened to studies.
And we're back with Expanded Perspectives. Cam, like we were talking about before the break, this photograph of this supposed mountain troll, it really sparked a lot of people's interest. And it got me thinking
So this
more
is the
about
photo.
it.
This is actually fake. So, man, that would be cool as hell if it was real. That would
I was like, I looked at it. Of course, I didn't give it much of a thought when I post. A lot of times I post things, I don't really delve into them. I just like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Post it. But I started staring at this photograph, and I'm like, okay, this kind of reminds me of a movie I saw one time. That was very good, though. I would recommend it to anybody. Have you seen that? You know what I'm talking about?
It's true.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually watch. I gotta watch that. That looks like a good movie.
Troll Hunter. It's on Netflix, folks. If you have Netflix, I think the movie was made in 2010. I believe it was made, or 2011, something like that. But it's called Troll Hunter. It's badass.
Yeah, I mean, you got to read all the subtitles, but yeah, it's an awesome movie.
It's great. I heard they're making an American version.
Oh, yeah?
That they've been working on, because what I had found, of course, doing a bunch of this, they said that.
Yeah, I might actually do that and then give a review. Yeah, it's free. So I'm not sure how long I'll go. We'll get to some of these
They were going to make it
clips, and I'm going to, because this is a topic unlike Bigfoot or UFOs. Like, if I do a show on UFOs, oh my God, there's so much evidence. I could be here for hours, but no, unless someone comes out and wants to talk about, I will invite them on.
get a part 2. Then they decided to put part 2 on hold and make an American version of it. Now, I don't know how you could make an American version of it and it seem anywhere as good or better than this Troll Hunter, because it needs to be Norwegian. It needs to be in the land of where this comes from. It just doesn't.
I'm with
hold
you,
water
and even having to read the
this.
subtitles, it doesn't take it away from me.
It
For
adds
me, I
more.
like it. I like it.
it.
I do too. It makes it seem more real for some reason.
Now, Kyle was talking, like I said, and he discussed about the great Norwegian mountain troll photo that he posted. And we discussed RAF recon flight back in 42 in December. If you look at the picture, look, you could swing it both ways. Does it look real? It might. Does it look fake? Yeah, it might. I tell you this, I dug and dug and dug. You can't really find a lot more about that photo. All the information you can find is that, which almost makes it seem like it's not real. It almost makes it seem like it was made strictly to be a one-piece little thing, kind of like a little Slender Man photo, and there's no more information about it, and that's it. Or it could definitely be done that way, so there's no more digging to be done, where you can easily wipe it away. So I got to looking into this stuff. Now, there's a lot of history that goes into it, and even the Troll Hunter movie tells a lot of.
Yeah, should have watched Troll Hunter before this.
Stuff that's going on with actual researchers there are Norwegian and Swedish and stuff researchers, like they research Bigfoot over here or Loch Ness monster researchers. They have troll researchers. Now, of course,
Which that's crazy in itself.
it is, which is funny because we've not been raised that way. We're over there, they may think it's insane for us to believe, in a chupacabra or to look at Bigfoot. But when you get into these troll stories, something about these troll stories draw me in. The idea of these creatures being out there and being, old as time and all this. The stories that I could find, they believe that these trolls appear in these Norse mythology tales that descend from the Jotun, which is a race they say was very similar to the Titans of ancient Greece. The story says that they're sworn enemies of the gods and that they separated from humans in these remote mountains and forests and up in the hills, which you would think. Now, there's also a name where when I say Jotun or Jotun, it's Jotun, but you also find a Jotnar, a Jote.
This is all Norwegian mythology stuff.
In R, and they're the same thing. They're these very
Let me actually go to the studio mode. Hi. What? All right. Okay. Sorry. My mom's birthday was just saying we're going to celebrate today. Doesn't look like anything.
giant creatures. And yet you could call them humanoid and whatnot, but they believe to be Ymir was the first of these trolls, and his offspring populated this land that I can't even come close to pronouncing, but Niflheim, I believe. It's supposed to be a mythical land there. And anyway, it's believed to be Norway's glacier area, is what Niflheim's believed, because it's described to be icy and like a land of mist. They come from the land of the ice and snow.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. It's wild, though, because the stories start altering once Christianity starts, getting into the region of the Norse. Because the Norse
and we also talked about that in that article. And also there. And I'm just skimming over. Let's actually go to this. So why do trolls? So I'm not sure. When it comes to Christians, trolls, creatures do have some kind of hatred for them. A hatred that they can smell someone who's a Christian believer and differentiate those who are not. But worse, the presence of a Christian believer around their surroundings can cause these creatures to go on a rampage, and most likely they will go and hunt down this person. So this article says it could be Nephilim. If you're familiar with the Bible, if the Nephilim, so it goes back to the flood. So the whole reason why the flood happened was because the angels were coming and they were intermingling with humans and were producing these terrible creatures, the Nephilim, which were the son of men and angels, and God hated it and he decided to punish humanity. Kind of like what's happening now. But that's for something another day. That's for my weekday political streams. And he told Noah to build the great flood, and the Nephilim were wiped out. But were trolls? So it could be that, but also because I know trolls, the Nazis, and I think the Quisling regime in Norway used trolls as propaganda. They depicted Jews. They were sort of as a reference for the Jews, unfortunately. Yeah, that was pretty bad. But I'll share this instead.
People and their culture was touched so much by Christianity that the trolls seem to have adapted their way, much like what it is in the movie. Heads up, folks, they'll ask a guy, make sure there's no Christians in the group. Well, it goes back in because Christians seem to be like what's for dinner as far as these trolls are involved. And they also claim that that's why there's a large stones and boulders near a lot of the churches and homes where these churches are built, and these homes that are built over in Norway is because of the trolls coming to these churches to destroy Christians. That's what's actually believed. They try to destroy the church, and then the sunrise or dawn will turn them into rock, which, most everyone knows. The sun, I believe it was even in the Hobbit series. They have the trolls or whatnot are arguing over what they're going to eat with the hobbits, and then he cracks the stone and the sun, and all that. So instead of basically fighting with the Norse gods in this mythology, the trolls like to get into a little trouble. So I always think of the mischief as you got to think of like gnomes or little people, but now you're thinking about something large, and it always seems to involve the Christians, but they don't know that. we don't like the Christians. They want to get them out of here. And it was territorial areas of these trolls. They're very territorial, natural and territorial in nature. Now it says the trolls do live far away from the human society. And it's always, much like Bigfoot, much like all these things, it's funny, they don't live right next door, so you can't see them, but they're up in the mountains, and you've got to imagine way up in the mountains and the hardest places to reach. That's where they want to be. And it's not because, they want to hide from us. It's they want to be left alone. It's kind of the stories that you get. Now they roam, of course, through nature, but they believe the troll, it's believed that hates human beings because of their greed, because they have to have everything that they see. They have to get their hands on it. And it was also true that some of the writings showed that trolls would occasionally slip into little human settlements and steal some things, and it was rare that you could find, but they would come in and steal. I don't know if they would like steal a princess, and take her off into the caverns, do things like that. But Norway is pretty much known in this Norse mythology of this area where it's come from because it's beautiful. If you haven't just pull up photos of Norway. It's beautiful over there. Yeah, it's cold, but also too, it is beautiful. The whole area like that. And that seems to me like what draws you to the idea of the Vikings and these fjords and all this group of mythology. You're like, that could happen. There's like this old religion and this old way and old feeling. It's almost like the land that time forgot in parts of that cult in that country there. You're like, so something, at least in my feeling, could actually live there. Well, you go to look, and there's been some evidence that slowly builds that makes you believe that some of this Norse stuff and some of this narrative of trolls and things could really have taken place, that human beings fought with the Norse gods, and there was a big battle and people were, killed and all this. And they also believe that during the time of peace that some of these Jotnar and some of the gods married. So, I guess the first troll-like, which we're not thinking of how they look, but these other peoples, anyway, they married.
Just so that was similar to it's Christianity, the Nephilim, and we are having some problems with the stream. Hang on, let me fix this. That's better. All right, that's better. Let's get back.
Married with the gods, interbred before they all come apart, which almost feels like the story of the Watchers. It almost goes along the same storyline. So we talk about with the Watchers interbreeding with the daughters of men. It almost feels that way.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you know anything, you'll know.
We get back into is we do know that they can't take sunlight. They'll be turned to stone. That's what you find over the whole thing. and the gods would hold dominion over them, would put them in dark and misty places, So it's almost like they put them. They didn't want to destroy them, but they didn't want them to get loose either. So they had to put them in a foggy area. You stay there. You stay over in this rough area. Now, legend has it that the Jotnar, or trolls, as we know them now, became extinct because the gods became more frequent and would actually attack them. Would put them down there and attack them later and kill them with stuff. And there's even some stories say that they would throw lightning bolts down and hit them. Make the flash. And that's what would kill these trolls, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people that are researchers in this, I can't speak about Norway people, but but a lot of the people that are researching this still believe that some trolls occupy the deep forest there in Norway. They also believe this. They believe that not only are they there, but it's their secret. It's Norway's secret, and that they have gone to very extreme lengths to conceal this from the world.
That's cool.
Now, this is the story that we're going with. And they kind of touch on some of this, of course, in the movie. But you go back into, of course, the Germans. The Germans took control of Norway back in World War II, right?
Right.
It hadn't gained. You're talking about 1905, I believe, 1904, 05, something like that, 06. Right in that area was when Norway gained its independence from Sweden. So, it was just right after the 1900s. Then World War II starts. Well, then the Germans take it. Boom. So you look into this, there's some writings that talk about when the Nazis occupied that area and when it ended, and then there was a threat of Soviet communism in that area. NATO, all right, got together and they wanted to fight against communism. That's what they combined for, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Well, they came to Norway because it shares a border with then, it wasn't Russia, of course, it was the USSR, the hammer and sickle. Well, you would think that they would welcome NATO, right? You would think, that, okay, we don't want any more of this happen with Germany. This is what we want. Y'all come on in. We're going to help keep this separated. We share some land, but we're cutting that loose. We don't want nothing to do with them. That didn't happen.
No?
No. During the Cold War, Norway didn't accept NATO.
I have looked this up. I could see why they were. I guess the Norwegians were in the future. It's actually because the new Hearts of Iron DLC for Hearts of Iron allows for, I think, as Sweden, you can form a Nordic council, and looks like Paradox are teasing more Cold War content to come in future updates, which I like. And talks about everything. Doesn't appear that there's a so. And the Soviets, the Soviet Union and Finland teamed up actually because Finland, there's that film Sisu, which I guess from what I'm getting at, it's a Finnish gold prospector killing Nazis. It probably takes place in 1944 when the Finns switch sides. No one knows that Finland played such a role. They just know the Winter War. Finland, actually, there's a continuation war in World War II. The Finns went to war with, they initially were I'm not going to say a member of the Axis, but they were partners with Germany, and they wanted to reclaim their lost land from the Winter War. And what they did was they that's the reason why Leningrad was surrounded during World War II, was because the Finns, they came up from here and the Germans came from the south and the city is surrounded. And then the Soviets, obviously, after Stalingrad, they pushed the Germans out. Leningrad is free, and they push in the Finns sign armistice. But Germany, this was happening across Europe, Hungary, Romania. A lot of these countries, they did not want to incur the wrath of Stalin. So they tried to sign treaties. Then the Germans, who were already overstretched, began to occupy these countries, which probably, now that I think about it, led to a faster decline of Nazi Germany. And so Norwegian politician, but it doesn't. So it says that they were. I don't know. This is NATO's website. It could be very biased. Oh, I mean. And these are possible Soviet campaigns that could have been launched. And they're so. I'm going to get this.
Not as a guardian, but it laid down these rules. Norway's like, okay, here's the rules we need you to follow. I want you to listen to these rules, all right?
Okay.
I can't find anything because most of it's on on effing Ukraine. Damn you, Zelensky.
One of the rules that they wanted to go by was no Allied maneuvers or occupation in the country of Finnmark, no foreign troops on Norwegian soil during peacetime.
Denmark or Fenmark?
Finnmark is a little town there.
Okay.
Finnmark.
That's the place we discussed.
Is an actual, not a town, but a section of Norway. Finnmark, and no Allied Navy or air maneuvers east of 24 degrees. So you're like, that's putting a place out there. It's almost cutting an area out. Look, so you got to think about this, okay? We're going to take a whole look at this thing. And
yeah. So officially is to keep tensions from getting too high, which I'd say that's probably one of the reasons. Norway would, the Western warm up, they just wanted war so badly. They were so, the Hungarian crisis was terrible, but it was the right decision of Eisenhower. I mean, shouldn't be a political show, but it was the right decision of Eisenhower not to intervene, or else we would have had World War III. So let me actually. I know Wikipedia is not the best, but I want to. no more. The Germans, because towards the end of the war, the Red Army launched an invasion of Finnmark to liberate it. And yeah, guess I'll have to read that at some point. Not now.
And like a game reserve
Yes.
for the trolls. Yes. The no foreign troops. All right. All right.
They didn't want any skirmishes between the U.S. troops that were probably going to be stationed there.
Well, you got to imagine if they were foreign, if we were part of this and we came to Norway, well, then there's huge empty parts of land back then. All right. Much like now, of these forests and mountains and all this, where they can keep people out that normally live there. They just don't want to hike and go in there. But if you're a military force, you've got the equipment set up for these things. You're going to go.
Yeah.
But what if the trolls are there? All jokes aside, we laugh because it's trolls because you think they're little wild-haired dolls. But what if they're there? So no foreign troops, okay?
Right.
None. So there's no way that you can get in there. We don't want you going in there. Second and third, you got to think of this. Norway, all of Norway is east of the latitude of 24, which takes in all of Finnmark, but the coastal regions and all that. But they restrict all the movements of that other area. So they don't want anybody flying over. They don't want the Navy circling. They want anything being around that. Because if you fly over, what are you going to get? The RAF photograph of a giant Norwegian mountain troll.
Right.
Okay. Now there's a map online that you can go and search up. Now this map allegedly was obtained from this government source there in Norway, who of course didn't want to be wanted to be totally anonymous when you start reading in any of this. But anyhow, this person, this anonymous person of this government that sent this map to all these people and let these other researchers found that I would say all this, but anyway, it's posted online, says that there's an area, and he draws a part in the map that says there's a giant species of troll in this area, and that's why Norwegian's Cold War foreign policy was so this area could remain untouched. And he claims of being in the know of all that. But here's something that's pretty wild. The USSR performed several nuclear tests in an area near Murmansk, Russia, close to the border of Norway during the Cold War. So the country of Norway, they go wild, like, look, they call for a stop to all these tests. Of course, as any country would be, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Any country would be like, you're not going to be setting nuclear bombs off on my border. This isn't be like Canada and the U.S. and the U.S. just testing bombs up there at Niagara Falls like it's a joke. Canada be like,
yeah. First off, Niagara, I've been there. There's a population there. So they'd be killing Americans and Canadians. The U.S.
What are you doing?
But let's be honest. That's something. Let's be honest. Looking at how the U.S. behaves, they do that, but then just blame Russia.
You can't do that just because it's up here and all this. So they call for a stop. But there's a story of a government, I guess you could say, I wouldn't say prime minister, but a person in the government who said, and this is supposed to be that in the present, there was some times of course, anger and rebellion going on, right? That they didn't want all this done. But he claims that more than one time that he heard a little backroom whispering, some guys involved in this that were some top players in the government between the USSR and Norway that claimed that the biggest risk for nuclear testing that close to Norway wasn't angering the people of Norway, but angering what this fella called the ancient landlords of Finnmark.
That's crazy.
We need to find out where that is. If anyone's in the chat can do that, please do. Like, that is so interesting.
Said you can't be doing that. And also, too, here's another thing.
The
that
trolls
really
don't
wild.
like nuclear testing.
No, they like the rumbling and all this. But here's something else they brought up. During that time, they had many avalanches were recorded and many landslides were recorded. Now, publicly, it was written in papers and talked about that it was due to the vibrations of these bombs. But several troll researchers, and
I know that the Tsar Bomba, if you're familiar with the Tsar Bomba that was a. Let me actually get the. When the Tsar Bomba was detonated, this is one of the largest weapons to be detonated. It was supposed to be larger, by the way.
Высота 4000 метров. Осталось 3 секунды. 2, 1, 0. Взрыв сопровождался световой вспышкой необычной силы. В этот момент самолет-носитель находился в 40 и последующее свечение, несмотря на сплошную облачность.
Okay.
Были видны в радиусе до... Пылевой столб, поднимающийся с земли, быстро увеличился в объеме. Через несколько секунд после взрыва диаметр пылевого столба составлял...
So that's one of them, and you can look more into it. The Tsar Bomba blast shattered glass in Finland, Norway, Sweden as well, and obviously the USSR. And there was a lot of controversy. So,
and even some conspiracy theorists in that group say it wasn't because of that. It was because of the flashes from the nuclear bombs were turning the trolls to stone. So how many trolls were there? Now, the USSR was notorious, and we remember this as kids in the Cold War too, growing up in it, but they were notorious for its sealed borders. You remember that they wouldn't let anybody in. It was airtight.
Yes.
You couldn't get in and nobody's getting out. And they would go to great lengths. I remember all the movies we used to watch, that involved all these, what was the old movie, Ruskies and all this, it's all American actors, but they're pretending because it's more Cold War propaganda. Well,
Rocky IV.
Here's a funny thing. There's no better, I guess you could say, an idea of how tight their border system was than the border they shared with Norway. During this time, there was a very vast and wide stretch of sand between these two countries up there, okay? Now, if you check with military experts and historians and all.
I'm actually going to go and, I'll let this play.
All that today. And they're interviewed during about this time. They'll tell you this, that these were there to detect crossings by defectors trying to leave the Soviet Union. These big lumps of sand, these big areas of sand. But there's some serious Norwegian troll researchers believe it was completely different reasons. See, the sand borders, if you will, is what we're going to call them, were not just large, but they were level.
All right. So there's, according to Wikipedia, there is they use sand.
A level flat area of sand. Like a large area to do what? To gather footprints. Now people would cross in and out there. The Russians, the USSR, could see that they were leaving tracks, leaving that area. All right. So they could track you down through all this sand.
Yes.
But it's argued by these researchers that they're like, but you could easily brush it off. People wanting to leave there could carry, limbs and whatnot and brush your tracks away. The researchers today believe that they were there for tracking trolls possibly coming into Russia at the time.
Really?
Traveling into the USSR.
Now, I've never heard of this.
Yeah. Now, of course, at the end of the Cold War, there was some stuff, and they said that the activity around the Finnmark area slowed dramatically. But there's a lot of troll researchers believe that the trolls were just hidden in caves up in the mountains, and that now they're beginning to kind of move around some more. Okay. Now, how crazy as that is.
Yeah.
because the Norwegian and Russian militaries are kind of starting to build stuff up around the Finnmark region again. Now, there's an article that was published in the Barents Observer there in Norway, and they were talking about it was strengthening its border forces in that region and modernizing much of the area along that border, and that Russia even displayed a presence on that side also. But it was evidenced by some satellite imagery that you can go online and find that shows that there's some tactical subs in those areas.
The USSR does have they do have subs off the coast, Love nuclear sub, which is part of their nuclear protocol for mutually assured destruction.
And there's also MiG bunkers nearby. Now, these mobile nuclear missile platforms are on position, what many people believe are for what? Guarding against trolls entering Russia.
That's, I love this story, right?
It's madness. And like, look, folks, I don't know how much of this holds water. These are things that I've read from all across the interweb. Everything you can.
It would make sense both ways for the normal official narrative and for trolls. I mean, it definitely holds up. I think it could be for both. Maybe you're just trying to guard, but also you have these troll. Though, what I'll say is that the Finnmark border with it's not that long, okay? I forgot how. It's according to Wikipedia, it's 195.7 kilometers or 121.6 miles. All right. And there were several trees, including before there was a tree of Novgorod, which they couldn't decide then in 1826, there was a tree of St. Petersburg, which officially, I guess, established it. This is according to, obviously, Wikipedia. Apparently, there was only one so there's a single border crossing. Area. But it didn't say how many people defected. But there's probably that's probably one of your better ways of getting out of the USSR, especially if you're a political prisoner who's just escaped and is on the run and you want to get to the West. You go through Finnmark.
You can dig up and find. It's wild. Now, the BBC even reported on a move and that even featured there's a video inside of a base. Now, like we said, Norway stepped up this whole military thing, and that they had this base built in the Arctic Circle. They said midway between these, what they called two large troll areas there. So the BBC takes and does a video of this. Well, there's this researchers now believe, many of the troll researchers or just any of the researchers believe that this was a smokescreen to take away from the real use of the base. They believe that the real use of the base is to launch missions and spec ops out of it to get into the surrounding caves and mountainous areas there to try to knock down and if not totally remove the troll population from that part of the world.
Interesting. Like I said, I don't believe that's solely for troll. I mean, it's possible. I doubt it. I think that many of these are. There's probably like special there might be programs. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know anything. If you're a Norwegian and like you're in the Norwegian Armed Forces, Special Forces, let me know. Because I want to know. I mean, I'd like to believe it would be cool, but I want to actually believe reality. And a lot of this does sound like fiction, to be honest.
World. Now, it's just me telling you this sounds insane. Now,
I love it.
There's other signs that they say, too, that makes you wonder, because now there's privatization on several of these former military installations there in Norway, and many of these are radar stations. So they're not open now. They're privatized, okay?
Right.
Much like the prison system's getting to become, which gets a little wild. Now, there's some troll researchers say that there's some official sources have been released that say these dishes use this have stare technology, which is the same technology that the U.S. uses in its missile defense. But there's many of the people that work in this privatized area, these radar stations, they want to keep asking this. They go, what you don't understand is they're not looking to the sky. They're sweeping across domestic lands. They've pointed them inside and they're sweeping across our land. Like, why would you be doing that?
And active, that is interesting though, actively. Because I'm sure you'd be able to, you'd know if there was a Russian invasion, you'd know if there's Russian tank. And I mean, I guess this is also good for when you're actively, but why are they active? I mean, there's many reasons. There's many things that could be. It's all very interesting.
Unless you're looking for something big on the ground moving.
Right.
Well, if you know there's no military on our soil, what are you looking for? You got all this stuff unless you're looking for giant Norwegian mountain trolls, right?
Right. That's exactly
as
right.
crazy as it is. Well, someone who looked deep into these subjects was the late Eric Natterud. Now, he passed away in 2010. He was a famous Norwegian cryptozoologist, a retired teacher, sea serpent investigator, and he even researched some of our some of the hairy hominids that he liked. Now, he'd gone on many expeditions, that he even operated a website. He dealt with sea serpents and troll research. Now, he would like to set people straight that trolls were not gnomes, is what he would always say, but bigger than human-sized humanoids is things that he would always like to go on and tell them. But he actually, besides his insights on all of this troll stuff, he did various sea serpent and lake. He would like to sea serpent. Now, he'd gone on research. Rick Natterud. Now,
Let me look that name up.
looked deep into the trolls, right?
Right.
That's the late Eric Natterud.
I can't find. I'm not sure how to spell his name.
Now, he passed away in 2010. He was a famous Norwegian cryptozoologist, a retired teacher, sea serpent investigator, and he even
I was spelling it wrong. Doesn't appear to be a lot of information, so this is how you spell it. I'm gonna put it in the chat. I'll look it up. Eric Natterud.
researched some of the hairy hominids, sized humanoids, is things that he would always like to go on and tell them. But he actually, besides his insights on all of this troll stuff, he did various sea serpent and lake monster stuff. He would research really into their sightings. but he would always say that he's not associated with monster hunters, but he did contribute to the British Columbia Scientific Cryptozoology Club and Jan Ove Sundberg's Global Underwater Search Team. So he was really into going out, boots on the ground. I'm going to get out there and find out some stuff. But if you ask him, he said he was a self-proclaimed troll expert. And he would get a load of this, eyewitness accounts. Now, he never talked about this conspiracy, what he believed in was a trolls, but he thought that it was being hush-hushed for a reason. But here's one of the hush-hush stories I want to read you that comes from a lot of this. And there was a local newspaper there in Norway. Gudbrandsodden is the name of this newspaper. And it says a bizarre car
I have
accident.
a subscription to that.
Do you get that?
Yeah.
All right. I don't forget what their local football team is, but
The comic section of that paper is amazing.
I got you. Yeah, fair. It says a bizarre car accident has happened on one of our mountain roads between Vinstra and Galal. A brand new and deserted BMW was found totally wrecked this morning. The police admits that the destruction of the vehicle seems uncalled for, as there was no sign of a collision with another car. Neither were there any skid marks in the gravel cover of the road into this file. A brand new one of our mountain out of the name of this newspaper there in Norway. I want to read you that comes from a lot of this. And there was a local newspaper there in Norway. Gudbrandsodden is the name of this newspaper. And it says a bizarre car
I have
accident.
a subscription to that.
Do you get that?
Yeah.
All right. I don't forget what their local football team is, but
The comic section of that paper is amazing.
I got you. Yeah, fair. It says a bizarre car accident has happened on one of our mountain roads between Vinstra and Galal. A brand new and deserted BMW was found totally wrecked this morning. The police admits that the destruction of the vehicle seems uncalled for, as there was no sign of a collision with another car. Neither were there any skid marks in the gravel cover of the road indicating a panic stop for moose or sheep. The wire fence along the road was ripped open. But I have yet to see a perfectly maintained wire fence around here, the policeman told the reporter. The presumed car owner was found in the vicinity in a severe state of shock and disorder. He was taken to Lillehammer Hospital by the ambulance just in case alcohol, they believe, was the culprit. An eyewitness, however, claims that the hysterical and shaking man screamed again and again, "It bloody stomped my car on purpose," while the ambulance personnel worked hard trying to tie him to the stretcher and eventually succeeded in calming him down with appropriate drugs. You like that? It
That is
stomped
crazy.
my car. Now, there were some other incidents that goes, apparently in 1982, there was a crash landing of a little commuter plane. And the witnesses claimed that what they had seen was British fighter jets right after that, circling that area after they say the aircraft that crashed had tail damage. Now, how would you get tail damage just flying over there? Now, they don't know if these jets were British or not, but there's some theory that the passengers on the plane had seen something that they shouldn't have, and they needed to be silenced before it got out, before anybody said anything else. Now, you got to
So this is what they're talking about. When the Mayhem accent, the Mayhem accent. So when the I don't speak Norwegian. Sorry. Flight 933. So that is, you can do your research on that.
I think about this too. Now, we always hear these things where they're trying to keep stuff under wraps. Like they try to say that maybe it was these wolves here in the States were killing cattle, and people are trying to say, well, it was bear, because they want the wolf population to pick back up. So they kind of play it off on the wrong one. Well, some researchers believe that that's what's going on over there, that there was some increase in what they call polar bear attacks on human beings in these areas. And several polar bear were killed, but they believe that they were killed to cover up the activity of
I mean, guess so. And governments have done
malicious trolls in those areas.
a lot of terrible things. What the U.S. does to cover up their crimes. We don't need to get into that right now.
Areas also. Man, so we don't know for sure. And look, it's me just reading and talking about this sounds like it's coming straight from the movie. You know, it doesn't even sound right, the stuff that you found. Because in the movie, they talked about these fences. Well, you read this stuff that there's these big electrical zones that they believe that's actually up there to keep these trolls in. But there's also some Swedish troll sightings in the area too.
Okay.
In the area in Sweden, get a load of this. Now, a lot of this stuff was come from a website and it had to be translated. You had to get it all going.
Right.
And it starts out, it says, I've said several times that
I'd like to continue, but I think I've got to be somewhere. If you want to listen to the entire thing, you can. You know the drill. Like the video, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye-bye, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.